Hi folks, JP here from the podcast. Just to let you all know that the podcast is sponsored by AB Entertainment, and the AB stands for Mr. Alec Beveridge. It's a DJ and entertainment business. Alex is on Facebook and Instagram, and you can hit him up through the WhatsApp for any bookings on 07845 746 092. And also folks, the podcast has taken on a new partner, and we're partnered by MCM Framing Services and Hoops Memorabilia. If you want any jerseys or if you've got any memorabilia sitting around you want framed or anything looked after that way, contact John Mullaney, and you can get him at johnmullaney0971@gmail.com, or contact him on his mobile 07835 072 582. And here at the Unrestricted View, we hope you're all enjoying the content, and if you are, please like and subscribe. It's free to do so, and also share amongst your Celtic family as well. Hail, hail from all of us. Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Celtic Unrestricted View. It's myself, JP, back off a late shift for last night, guys. I was on for 2 hours and 10 minutes. That Barry Bannon man can keep you talking for ages, so he can. But I'm joined this morning by my good man, Mr. Alan Stirling. And Alan, we've got a familiar face to the Celtic community. We've got the very own Mr. Ryan 118 joining us this morning. We're looking forward, Alan, to hearing Ryan's backstory, being a Celtic fan, because we all know yours, mate, and you're probably fed up listening to me, so it's better to get somebody else on that we can listen to them for a wee while, mate. It's good to see you, big man.
Aye, oh, fantastic. Missed it last night. Had some plans, but it was a very entertaining weekend, to say the least. I think I'd probably rather the game went slightly differently, that we held on without the penalties having to be the deciding factor. But the win and the cup final upcoming, that's the most important thing. So, aye, very good weekend, and glad to see yourself and my good friend Ryan 118 on. So it's going to be a very exciting podcast, a wee hour to pick his brains and find out everything about him.
Yeah, and as Alan says, mate, that's what we do on here. We just pick brains out of it. So, welcome to the show, Ryan. Thanks very much, mate, for taking the morning with us. I know he's been napping your head to get you on here to have a wee chat with us, mate, and we feel honoured to have you on, mate. So, cheers for giving us your time, and it's good to see you.
No, it's an absolute pleasure. I'm glad to be on, and I was laughing because you're saying, "Oh, it's good to get somebody different on," but I feel like people are probably fed up of hearing me at this point. But still fun nonetheless. You can pick whatever brains are left. Feel like there's none nowadays, but no, it's a good week to be on, I suppose, with the semi-final success, with the split coming up. There's a lot to look forward to. A very exciting end to the season, I think. I don't know how much you are nervous or excited or whatever for the next few games, but aye, it's a good time to be a Celtic fan if you're into entertainment, I tell you that for nothing.
Yeah, definitely. And talking about being a Celtic fan, Ryan, obviously that's why we've kind of got you on today, mate, to find out your kind of backstory. Has football always been your main go-to as a young lad, growing up, playing football with your mates, or being a supporter, or who was it that influenced you into being a football fan and obviously a Celtic fan, mate?
God, you know, that's one of the things that's always hard to pin down the exact moment, and especially when you've liked it your whole life. I know I've got some pals who never go into football till their later years, maybe when they went to secondary school or whatever, but genuinely, this cliche as it sounds, it's something that's just always been there my whole life. For the second I start having conscious memories. I think obviously the biggest influence, and I think a lot of people share it, people are lucky enough to share it, that, you know, your dad always gets you into football quite early. My dad being a Celtic fan, the rest of the family being big Celtic fans as well. You know, I grew up in a big Celtic family. You know, my uncles all supporting Celtic, cousins, aunties, all the rest of it, they all supported Celtic. So it was like, you know, you didn't have a choice for the get-go, which is good. I like it that way. I wouldn't ask for it to be any different. But football has been part of my life for the first minute I can remember. And following Celtic as well. I think that it's always, people always ask, oh, in your lifetime, who's your favourite player? Who was your first favourite player? For me, I'm always a wee bit angry that I never really got to experience the Martin O'Neill era the way that, you know, you guys probably did, because I was just too young. I was born in 2000, so Henrik Larsson to me is a very distant memory. I can remember snippets of Henrik Larsson. I don't remember the Seville as well as I'd like to, and all that jazz. I think for me, you know, it was probably like 2006, 2007, I started really getting into football. I was, you know, 7 years old or whatever. And then from there, the journey begins, and that's where, you know, you suddenly fall in love with it very quickly, and you used to know as well as me, Celtic's a club and football is a sport that's very easy to fall in love with.
100%, mate. Well, you're talking about memories there. I'm probably going to show my age here. I can remember guys like Carol Muggleton and Wayne Biggins and Ian Andrews and
Jimmy McGrory.
Jimmy, well, Jimmy, I'm not as old as that, enough. I think you're on the street, Jimmy McGrory at school, you know. I'm not as big as that,
but, was that a 7-1 game against Rangers?
Yeah, I don't even, because my dad was at that game, I'm sure, so listen, they judging you.
Nah, mate, me and your dad, some laugh at me. That was we were in the main stand. Your dad was a good man. He gave me a wee quarter bottle right there. No, as I say, it was. No, I remember. I remember Paul McStay. So I can remember, like, he was my hero. Mm-hmm. A lot of boys go to Henrik Larsson. I think it's the obvious one, Ryan. You know, people choose Henrik because of what he did for the club, and he was fascinating, and he was by far world class. But my favourite of all time is Paul McStay, because when I grew up playing football, I wanted to be him. That was who I wanted to be. And obviously, I'm going to tell everybody I'm 40, so I remember I'm a good bit ahead of that. So I can remember a lot of players that have came and went for Celtic. Mm-hmm. And obviously, as Ryan says, he's a bit like Ryan Clifford for on here. I would say that these lads are quite spoiled in a way, because they've seen Celtic win and win well for the whole time. Probably, Ryan, you've said there you don't remember Henrik Larsson. Martin O'Neill for me was a pioneer to the change. So he pioneered the change, in my opinion, in terms of Celtic weren't the dominant till he came. And then for his came, Celtic have been pretty much top of the table.
Think where we are now is, I think a lot of people my age and in my kind of generation of Celtic fans don't acknowledge what Martin O'Neill done enough, and I think there's plenty of people that do. Don't want to. I know for anybody watching who is my age, I'm not categorising all this into being kind of ungrateful or selfish or anything like that. But like, I don't think a lot of people realise what Martin O'Neill did there. I think he is. If you go back and pinpoint a moment where things changed, I mean, you go back to June 1st, 2000, when he was made manager.
Yeah,
that day is huge. And you just look at you get a graph up, but the league winners for 2000 to 2023, like that just shows you, like, he is maybe the reason that we are where we are now. He created such a change. The players he brought in, the overall success. It's crazy. As the word you used, pioneer, pretty much sums it up.
Yeah, I think, Alan, I think we could all agree. We could all agree, mate, that was the change for Celtic in a positive way.
Oh, definitely, as you say there. I'm slightly younger than yourself, but I remember kind of going to primary school, you would get pelters every week because of how bad we were. So I think I've mentioned before some of the kind of growing up during 9 in a row with Rangers winning that. And getting beat at Raith Rovers in the Coca-Cola Cup final with your man Paul McStay missing the penalty. So that's kind of first memories of football that are way beyond that. So when I first kind of get proper involved in football, it was Henry Larsson, it was everything. You loved everybody in that team as well. You're looking at kind of Didier Agathe and Paul Lambert, Neil Lennon. Then you go further on, kind of slightly with Stylian Petrov coming in, starting to make his impact before he made his move. And then further on for that. But that was a pivotal point in Celtic's history where we made that change. And it was probably because of the massive investment that was made as well. We were starting to match the amount of money that was getting spent for across the water. So it's a pivotal point, and obviously it's worked out relatively well considering the amount of domestic success we've had over the last kind of 2 decades or more. So just when you're saying when you were 6 or 7, Ryan, who was the kind of players at that time or just beyond that you kind of idolised, that you grew up that made you kind of fall in love with football?
My idol, and everybody that watches my channel knows this, my guy and my go-to, and I always say still arguably my favourite ever, is Big Boric. Artur Boric is the guy that just, he straight away. And I think that's a testament to him himself, because we all know that Boric at times could be a bit, he had his moments, he wasn't always perfect, but his character and his personality, I mean, if you're watching somebody like that when you're 7, 8 years old, 7, whatever, you gravitate towards it. You gravitate towards guys like that, guys who would bleed for the badge, and you do find well that Artur Boric would do that. He might not have been somebody who grew up a Celtic fan, he might not have been one of the local boys or whatever, but you'd think he was with the way that he treated the club and the way he played. Because I remember one of the first ever games I can remember watching was the game against Manchester United, and he saves the Zaha penalty. And you straight away, you could be watching that as that might be your first ever game of football, and you just watch Boric saving the penalty and his reaction to saving the penalty, and just the general reaction of him after the game as well. And he's a hero. Like, you're looking at him and you must look at him and think he's a god. So he was always like my first standout to me. And then obviously back then as well, you had guys like Neil Lennon's just coming to the end of his career in that sort of era. Some good players around about the squad that came and gone. Like Brown came in around 2007, 2008. Obviously, he kind of started his Celtic career really early back then. I remember Big Gravison running about, and it was obviously quite easy to gravitate towards him because he was quite a unique looking guy. But back, I feel that's one of the things that I'm always jealous about, being able to remember the O'Neill era, because we've had some great players. Like I could list, some fantastic players in the kind of Gordon Stratton era. Your Scott McDonalds and Vennegoor, Hesselink, Samaras, and McManus, Caldwell, whatever. You can list through that team, and there is some good players in there. But I feel like I just missed out in the era that had the actual, the icons and the greats, your Petrovs and Mjalby and Agathe and guys like that, and then I'm left with Lee Naylor and Andreas Hinkle. I'm always really jealous. Aye, exactly. I wish that I was maybe just born 2 or 3 years earlier. Evander Snow, there's a throwback, by the way.
That is, man.
Oh God. So I obviously there is some great ones in there, but if you're asking for my actual go-to, Alan, then it's Boric. Always has been Boric, always will be. I think when I'm lying in my deathbed, hopefully in years to come for now, if you were to ask me the question, then it would be Artur Boric still. I love that.
I think he's still kicking about the away end at Ibrox, isn't he?
While all this is going on, we've got a guy called Jason Lee's just here to stalk you, apparently. I don't know if Jason's a follower of yourself, Ryan, but...
Well, that's the thing. Have any of you watched that Baby Reindeer yet on Netflix?
Started watching 3 episodes last night. It's psychotic, isn't it?
I finished it last night, so the word stalk at the minute is kind of eerie after watching that programme, I must say.
I've seen a wee bit that she's sitting in a bar talking to the barman about being a lawyer and doing this and doing that, but I've not seen anything else regarding
some Boris Johnson in disguise, that's what it is.
Aye, Boris Johnson doing me a wig on.
Boris
You've dressed
Johnson
up
wear,
like that a few times, Alan, haven't you? You've been like that. You've been like that a few times, haven't you? I bet you've done that in the house.
It's not all late on. I had to get a wee shower, get the makeup off earlier. Just do it.
So obviously,
well,
Ryan, you were saying there, I know about your. So I would imagine then Gordon Strachan's the era. Then you'll
yeah,
probably
that's
earliest
like
memories
my
from.
that's like my first era being a Celtic fan. I would say that from Gordon Strachan onwards, that's pretty much where the memory starts to kick in and start remembering things.
Right, amazing. But we were still dominant then, so at least
God,
we can go for there.
We've still done well.
So you're kind of showing off a wee bit now because you definitely are spoiled then.
Well, absolutely. Listen, it's one thing I've never took for granted. I remember during the COVID year, on my channel, obviously it was a hub for. I would say I was actually quite reserved in terms of breakdowns, but it was a hub to come for a good breakdown if you were somebody that wanted for the other side that wanted to come and watch somebody struggle. But I remember people would always comment, and we'd get some Celtic fans on in the podcast, and they come on and say, "Oh, you're just spoiled rotten." And I'm like, "Oh, listen, I appreciate what we've done." And I think that was the hard thing during the COVID year, was the fact that we were doing so badly that I think we were warranted to have a moan about it, because it was really bad. Yeah. It was really, really bad. And listen, if you're going to be honest, then you have to criticise. So I think the initial reaction is that everybody of my age or in my age group or whatever are spoiled. They don't know how to lose. And I think now it's only this season that I think people now realise I feel like I could deal with it pretty well. And I understand that I have been spoiled and really, really spoiled in my lifetime. And I appreciate everything we've done. And that's why this season, I've actually loved it this season. I've loved the challenge. I've been right up for it. And I think that it's obvious to say that we could have been better. And I think you could obviously state the obvious in saying that we should have probably blew Rangers at the water long ago. I think if you go back to November, December, we could have been well cleared by now. But I've enjoyed it. I like it. You know, I'm well understanding that we can't just win the league by 10, 15 points every year, that we can't win trebles every year. And there's definitely, and this is, you know, I'm not to take fire at anybody because that's not the style I have. But there is definitely people that are my age that think that's the norm now, that think that you have to win a treble every year. And it's not as simple as that. And I think that some people need to realise that, you know, trebles every year are just impossible. If we could win a treble every year, God, it would be great. But it's never going to happen, is it? If you're just being honest.
No, Ryan, I think that's the thing, because I've been banging the drum long enough on here. And I'm going to name drop it again because I'm proud of it. I was on the BBC Sports Sound a couple of weeks ago talking to the lads, and that's one of the questions that was asked to me by Kevin Thompson and Kenny McIntyre that does the show. He says, Kenny McIntyre actually asked me, how do you think this season's went in terms of, are you happy with a challenge? And I said, well, sometimes it's okay, because I've been there when Celtic have been really poor.
Aye.
Right? Worse than the COVID season, by the way. You think that was bad? I remember watching them 9 in a row.
I can only imagine.
Right, so this is where I'm coming from. So people like see yourself, Ryan, who's slightly younger, who have only seen dominance from Celtic. And you're right, mate, because Brendan Rodgers has made winning trebles the norm for Celtic, in my opinion, because he was the guy that started it. He won the Invincible treble, backed it up with another treble, set us up to win another treble that Neil Lennon seen over the line, and then Neil Lennon came in and won his own treble. So we won like 4 trebles in a row, so it became the norm. And then we've just won another one with big hands last year.
That's sort of 5 trebles in 7
Before
years.
that, we won the double, So if we won the double this season, that was 7 trophies in the last 3 years Celtic have lifted it. I mean, it's farcical. Like Steven Spielberg couldn't even come up with a storyline behind it. he couldn't. He just couldn't.
It's not. It's because, Alan, I'll come at you in it, because you were there in Tenerife with me in December, right? And I feel like, remember when we went to Hoops Bar?
I'm going to head a bit. Right, I feel a bad
story. We were in Hoops Bar though, Alan, right?
Tenerife.
We were in Hoops Bar. Mind we watched the Kilmarnock game when they beat us at Rugby Park. And like, I feel like there was a wee bit of doom and gloom around the place, and we all were on Twitter and we seen the reactions and stuff. And like, number one, I don't know if you would expect this to be where we are now, right? But like, do you feel that sometimes when we get beat, there's like, I hate saying things like this because I don't want people to pick it up the wrong wine and they start going, oh, he's a dick for saying this or whatever, right? But do you feel like when there is a loss, sometimes there can be a bit of an overreaction for the wider support, because it's like, Yeah, we shouldn't be losing games, right? I get it, but sometimes I feel like some of them get taken a wee bit, like.
You ought to, by the way, you ought to be in a group chat with him. You ought to be in a group chat with him, by the way.
I'll back it up. Right, we spoke about this in Tenerife. I think there was a few kind of people we were speaking to were agreeing with the same thing, but I don't think it was as much as just the defeat. I think it was the lead up to the performances beforehand. There was a number of performances that you could see maybe this is going to slide off a wee bit. We're going to drop a few points somewhere here. So I think it was a lead up to that game, especially. And you seen that after that with the Hearts defeat as well.
That's true.
So there was a number of kind of concerning clues, shall we say, that were coming up there that were saying we need to get this performance back on track here, or this lead that we've got, that we've worked well to get in the league, it will slide. And it did slide. But it shows good work for the team and good work for the manager that we've managed to kind of put a run together no matter how we've been performing, and we've managed to get back to the top of the league again. I like what Ryan's saying, that it has been kind of entertaining this year because it's been closer, but I don't know if that's maybe shaved a few years off us. We're kind of
Saturday shaved a few years off me on its own, so I wouldn't worry.
Weird half Alan anyway, that's for sure.
I Rachel didn't even come near that. It fell off the fear.
What took the Celtic to go to extra time in penalties with Aberdeen, man? He's lost his stubble.
You were doing it right before the penalty shootout, and you just...
Aye.
We've got half an hour here. We've got half an hour here today. That's our 4 penalties.
Oh, right.
So, we do kind of feel there is the number of the fan base that are kind of expected. We are going to continue this kind of dominance that we've had over the country for the last number of years. But when you look at it from the outset as well, we do start the best footing. We have got the best financial kind of records in the country. We have got the most money in the bank. We did have the best players in the country. We still probably do. So when you're setting off a season in that kind of level and kind of standards, we are kind of, not expectants might be the wrong word, but we're definitely favourites to take up every trophy. And I know it always doesn't work out like that, but that's maybe where the expectance levels of the fans are coming from, because we're seeing how well we've done previously, and we're starting off with what levels we've got financially and how well the club is run.
Aye.
Well, Brian, let me get your thoughts on that in terms of, for me, right, I think there's, like you mentioned slightly earlier, I think there's been a massive overreaction this season by a lot of the fans, right? Now, I've said it on here numerous times now. The hardest thing about being a Celtic fan this season hasn't been the way the team are, hasn't been Brendan, hasn't been the board, hasn't been the recruitment, none of that at all. For me, the hardest thing about being a Celtic fan this season is the Celtic fans, because of the way they've reacted. You know, the booing the team off the pitch for winning 1-0 against Ross County. They're not looking at the bigger picture there, in my opinion. You've got other chances in the game. If they go for you, it's 2-3-0 before anything else happens. So that's out with the team's control. Sometimes, like you says, Ryan, as well, sometimes it's okay to have a challenge. You playing it, by the way, we play in a league that's renowned for a 2-horse race. But over the last decade, there's been only one horse. We've lost a horse. Over the last decade, we've lost a horse, because Celtic have been rampant in terms of trophy. It's been trophy leading for us. So for me, Ryan, I think there needs to be some sort of balance for the Celtic fans as well. And I think there's certain aspects of it. They need to look at the bigger picture, in my opinion, mate.
It's been a weird season in terms of, general reactions to games. I mean, if there's people out here watching for my channel, they'll know I've been Brendan Rodgers' biggest backer, and I've been trying to kind of calm the heads at times. But there's been times where there've been, fans have been well more than entitled to voice their frustrations, I'd say.
Yeah.
But I think that's as Alan kind of touched on when he was speaking, I think that is the most annoying thing. And I think that's where the difference comes in the actual moaning that does happen for people. I think it's because of that financial gap, because God knows so many times in the past few years, like, let's be real, we should have really killed them. There's times we could have killed Rangers off and no even gave them a look in. And I think that's where the frustration does lie. The fact that we haven't taken that opportunity just to be like, right, we've been making millions, let's kill them off and let's just make this our league without a challenge. And I think fans are frustrated that we've maybe not taken that. For me, it's as simple as, I think this year, it's the board have been the ones for me that have made it as painful as it should be, because I think that Brendan Rodgers has came in and he's done an amicable job. I think he's done pretty fine. I think that sometimes it gets exaggerated how poorly he's done. I think that the team at times have done, obviously put some performances out there that are questionable, but generally the work that they've done has been good enough. It's the reason that we're top of the league and challenging for a double. I think that this year the board have really left us in a position where we should have strengthened more in the summer. We should have done more in the summer to back the manager, and that's why fans are so frustrated. I think it all really just burns down to that. I think there is that, and I'll never ever grudge the supporters for having that annoyance towards the board, because listen, I've been very open and honest a million times about the board at Celtic, and I think that there's a reason that people are patient, that people's patience have wore thin. But I think that sometimes perspective is needed though, JP. I would agree with that. I think sometimes perspective is needed in the sense that, you know, you can't beat every team 3 or 4-0, and you might have the chances in a game to beat a team 3 or 4-0. Some games are just going to be trickier than others to navigate. And I remember that day we beat Ross County 1-0, and I remember leaving the stadium feeling like I never will. I don't even care if we lost the game. It would take something remarkable for me to start booing the team off the park. I've just personally never done it. It's not for me. But I remember leaving the stadium with my mate Kieran that day. And I remember thinking, it's nuts, because if we scored 3 or 4 of the chances that we should have scored, there wouldn't be any boos ringing out. People would have been happy because the scoreline would have painted the picture. But I think it's sometimes maybe just difficult for us to have a wee bit of perspective in it in the moment. I think it could just be a wee bit heated. But hopefully this year we can maybe kill off Rangers in the summer should we win the league and we get that 60 million that everybody's talking about.
Well, more before the end of the year, Ryan. I think you could potentially, especially mentally, you could kill Rangers off at Celtic Park coming.
Oh, aye.
And then do them in the cup final, which would really, in my opinion, that would really shatter them, mate.
I would the fact that Clement, sorry if I go to break out the French pronunciation, the fact that Clement is came in to such.
Sorry, mate. I don't think he's watching us anyway.
I know. Aye, but he's we all watched. I don't know about you. We all watched. Do you know? Get frustrated. Like Clement came in and he was suddenly getting seen as this fucking revolutionary Messiah. He was the best thing for sliced bread. He speaks perfectly, speaks amazing. He wins the League Cup, even though it's his predecessor that gets him to the final and put him in that position. And then he's getting lauded as this, that, and the next thing. And then now you can see him, the wheels are falling off a wee bit, and nothing is done yet, right? Nothing is finished until the last whistle. Who knows? Rangers could end up winning a treble. I'm not going to speak too soon, right? But should Celtic go and win the league, and should Celtic go and win the cup, what position does that leave him in there? Because I think they'll be scrambling. I think he'll be scrambling in his own head, Clement. So it's nuts how things could change so quickly, but it's a massive chance for Celtic, as you said, to go and do that.
So it's that same position as Van Bronckhorst that Beale was in, but they come in at that relatively same time as in the season. They started off tremendously well. They didn't win the league, and then they go to the summer, and all the fans are saying that, let him get his own players in. It's all kind of repeat every time. So this is the stage we're at now. Clement's done well. Now we're hopefully going to win the league, and the fans will be saying, let him get his own players in, and then by the time before Christmas, you're probably hoping to see the same outcome as you did with Giovanni Van Bronckhorst and Mr. Beale. I think that's
a very good point Alan makes here, Ryan. I think there's definitely a pattern, and it's a working way pattern for them. The way they bring managers in, but they all seem to be. I don't know if it's just me, mate, and I don't mind saying this on here. We can all have a bit of banter, and this is all this is. But they all seem to be sniffing out the same glue pot because they all say the same things. And I think Jim Trainer's doing all the script for them. I think he's somewhere behind the scenes, he's making up a script for them all to come out and say it publicly. You know, we call him the good brother Pedro Caixinha. You know, he's talking about caravans and dogs barton and bringing out Volvic bottles, doing tactics on a table, and it's nuts, man. And then you've got a guy, you go for him to a guy in Graham Murray, who we've now got to pretend like bat signal for him every time a manager doesn't do well. You think he's getting shouted on again. So they've kind of made that rod for their own backs themselves with the way they behave, but they don't do themselves any favours in the media. I mean, you mentioned Clement there, Ryan. He's come out and he's actually been like that the other week. Motherwell beating us at Ibrox was a freak result.
Aye.
That's disrespectful to Motherwell.
Aye, and then there was the whole
Premiership team.
Moral victory as well. With
the moral victory thing, the Lapa honour they took at Ibrox.
You found out about a tomato sauce and we're going to play football in Mars. Aye, you felt that they kind of part that petrol party blasting out very nicely.
Get to Dundee.
Aye. It's nuts because it's the same as well. Listen, I think it happens. See, when you're on that, it was the same during the COVID season where, like, you know, you see some of the things that fans and managers and stuff come up with. For God knows, we went through it with Lenny that year, right? But see the whole stuff with like Tavernier, for example, as well. Like, I feel at the one minute, you know, he's the best right back the country's ever seen, and the next minute they all want rid of him. And I'm like, this is the kind of thing that leads to this, isn't it? Like, you know, you can't keep you should have an opinion of him. If you don't think he's good enough, he should never be good enough. But because he scores a penalty or a free kick in a big game, he's then suddenly a Hall of Fame right back and this, that, and next thing. It just seems like there is a whole, as you said, rinse and repeat process with everything at Rangers at the minute. And listen, long may it continue, because it seems to work for us. So I'm not that fussed. But it does. It seems like there's just a rinse and repeat with the same. It happens with a manager. It happened with Bronkhorst, Beale, Gerrard, whatever. It's happened with Tavernier. It's happened with Goldson. It's happened with all the people that have been there a continued period of time. And it just seems to be, you know, back to the start. Let it play out, then we go again. It's crazy.
Well, that's it.
If we can spend in the summer, they might go full on Watford owners and have like 6 managers a season. Honestly, if we could put the foot down, honestly, that's where we should be. That's what we've been saying. That
no, 100%. But I keep saying it as well, lads. And this is just me again. The older Heeding news, obviously, just thinking maybe too much sometimes, but I don't think you can go and spend loads of money. You might not gain off it. Do you know, it still isn't a guarantee that you're going to bring that success that we're all desiring. But you look at the team and we go, we want better than him. We want better than him. We want better than him. What kind of fees do you think these players are going to cost if you're wanting better than... I mean, a guy says to me the other day, I would like you to go and buy better than Kyogo. How much money are you going to need to spend to replace him?
Been nuts to try and find some of these players that are there in it.
Where are they? Whereabouts are they? You know,
I seen that there's obviously we've been linked to 4 or 5 different goalkeepers now to replace Joe Hart. One of them the other day I seen was Sunderland's Anthony Patterson. We're getting, apparently Celtic are looking at him, right? And I'm like, that's an easy like 10 million plus you're talking for him. Sunderland won't let him go for anything less than £10 million. So automatically I scratched that away for Celtic's name. I'm like, it's never going to happen. It's not going to be a Celtic player. But just on that note, just thinking about that, like the last time we paid big for a keeper, we seen what happened. It was Barkas. We paid £6.5 million, and it was a £6.5 million that we'll never see again. So it's just we're in a really horrid position where, you know, down in England, you know, they can go and spend. Look at Wolves, for example, who have spent 40 million on that Fabio Silva, right? They've spent 40 million on him, but come, you know, 2-3 years later, that 40 million's made back up in the money that they get for the broadcasting rights and everything else. Whereas obviously here it's not quite the same. So it's always frustrating. They need to be smart about it, as Alan said. You know, that's the only way they can be when it comes to signing these players. But every player's a risk. I suppose every player we sign has got to be a risk.
What's your thoughts, Ryan, on Celtic's model and the way they work?
I think it's a model that needs a bit of tinkering. It's no perfect, but I understand what the model is. The model's not going to change. The model isn't going to change. Like, that's it, and people need to accept that that's it. Like, there is no way that Celtic are going to change their model for signing players to try and then sell for a profit. Excluding the odd player, there's obviously a couple that beat the exception to that, right? But that's the model for Celtic, and it's always got to be. And people want us to be more like, you know, we always this saying about wanting to be more like Ajax and more like Brighton and stuff like that. I understand that sentiment, but it's a really hard position to be in, to be like those clubs. And ultimately, they are working in the same model as Celtic. They sign young and sell for profit. They just do it at a much higher scale. They can afford. So Brighton, for example, went and signed Valentin Barco over in Argentina, right? Who's a great young player, and it's the kind of player that you would love to see probably come into Celtic. But I think they signed him for something like 12, 13 million pound. Celtic are only going to spend 12, 13 million pound on a young player. It's just not going to happen. So we're working in similar models to these clubs. We're just doing it at a much smaller scale. We're signing players for maybe 2, 3 million and then trying to sell them for a profit.
Yeah.
I think that the only criticism I have of the model is, well, first of all, recruitment needs we need to go and sign ahead of recruitment. First of all, that needs to happen. That's a big part of it.
That would be a big bonus.
That job's empty.
Forward.
I think that the only criticism I have of the model is that I would like to see them be a bit more ambitious, in the sense that not every signing has to go and be £7-8 million. But I would like us to see, we do need a couple of ready-made players in there. We do need to sign a couple, because we're getting shown up in Europe year after year, and I think that's because we don't have enough ready-made players. I don't think we have enough players who are ready to come in and lead a team. I think we've got too many younger guys.
Yeah.
So I think that
So would you like see that older? Like older?
Yeah,
and more
I would love to see a couple of more established players come in. You know, some people that maybe are 26, 27, 28 years old that you're spending a wee bit more money on, just so that you have some experience in the team and that you have a wee bit of leadership and character. Whereas some of the players we're signing are great, right? We've signed some great young players in recent years, but are they the kind of players that are going to come in and lead you to European success? No, because the time that they can lead you to European success, they're gone. Like Jeremy Frimpong, he's somebody new who would lead it. Look at Bayer Leverkusen. They could go and win the Europa League. But he wasn't going to do that at Celtic. He was too young at Celtic to do that. He's went off and he's got the experience. So the time these guys are leaving Celtic, then they're ready to lead teams to European success. Whereas I think we need to go and sign a couple of players that could do that for us.
Oh,
Alan, would you agree with Ryan there in terms of the Celtic model? Because in my opinion, I think Ryan's spot on, but I agree. I think it needs tinkered, but I don't think it needs radicalised, if that makes sense, in terms of massive changes. But Ryan's spot on as well. We need a head of recruitment. Listen, we've heard all his murmurs kicking about now that Celtic are ready to appoint a director of football or somebody within that kind of role to work closely with Brendan, which I think could work well, because I think Brendan could benefit from having somebody beside him in that role that he can go to and speak to, someone to listen to him, because maybe that didn't happen there in this season in terms of the players maybe Brendan was asking for. Barry Bannon was on last night, in fact, and he tells us that, you know, Celtic were looking at Sergio Gomez at Man City to come in the January window. That never materialised. Was that a case of the lads, is this why the lads have been moved on, you know, because they weren't paying attention to what Brendan was asking for? Or so would you agree with Ryan in terms of tweaking the model, mate, or are you quite happy with the model and how things go?
Oh, I think, you know, my opinion, it definitely needs tweaks. I think the last couple of transfer windows have just shown a complete scattergun kind of approach to the players that we're bringing in. If you look like we're bringing in players for the Korean League, young, quality, haven't exactly set the head on a light. You're looking at Marco Tellio coming for Australia and then heading straight back. Quan going to St Mirren on loan. Then you're picking up a couple of players for Scandinavia and then elsewhere. It's a very kind of scattergun approach, which I think we need to kind of nail down what we're looking for. And I think that's probably the reason why the couple of guys have been put on garden leave and left. I think I've kind of voiced my opinion a lot about the kind of the age bracket that we're looking at. We're bringing in players that are far too young. We like, obviously that's the model that we're bringing in, like, these young players, but it can't be kind of consistently like 9-10 young players that are projects. We need to kind of, I've said a few times about the likes of kind of players that are doing a lot, that are maybe doing a form, like I've said Scott Sinclair, Joe Hart, even Jack Buckland across the water with him, Cole O'Toole.
Aaron Moy's another one.
Aye, so you're looking at these kind of players that they've got the ability, but they're maybe not playing at their optimum at present. And with Brendan coaching them and us giving them a platform to kind of reapply themselves and get back to the best of their ability, we can get them at a kind of cut down price because they're not playing at that ability at present.
Yeah.
But work on that. But we definitely we need some experience in the team as well, because you look across the team that we've got at present. The older guys aren't getting any younger. You look at Callum McGregor, how long we're going to get out of Callum. We'll hope it's the next kind of 4 or 5 years, but how long is he going to get up to the level? Is it just now? Joe Hart leaving this season as well. That's another kind of established older head that's in the dressing room and the first 11. Then you look at Carter Vickers, how long we're going to be able to keep hold of him. So we need a kind of conveyor belt that we're bringing in. Certain established players that we can maybe work with and get back up to the level that they're capable of. Because we're under no illusions. These kind of players, if like a few years ago, Scott Sinclair was at the top of his game. There's no way that Celtic were ever able to kind of afford that kind of player. Same as kind of when they were across the water with Jack Butland. If he was at the top of his game, there's no way he's coming to Rangers for free. And you're seeing that with the kind of transfer quotes he's getting. The English teams are back and looking for him for the summer.
Yeah.
So we're at a stage that we can't afford to go out and buy these players ready-made. So we need to look for kind of small problems with the players, shall we say, that we can maybe bring them in and correct that. So we're getting that kind of bargain and be creative with our signings, because I think it's shown with, especially the summer window, the amount of players that can have a little loan. Lagerbielke was ready to get back out loan if it wasn't for Carter Vickers' injury. So you're looking at the majority of these players that haven't kind of made an impact in the first 11 or the squad, and that has to be corrected in the summer for me.
Yeah, some good points, Alan. Ryan, I think you mentioned earlier on, you mentioned a great man himself, Arthur Boric, big character, big about the dressing room, full of life, full of, could motivate people around about him. We're going to lose that in another guy that we've got just now. Again, a massive character that many less won his that penalty shootout from adversity of hitting the post and the kind of Joe Hart behind you, mate. Yep. So we're going to lose him, and for me that's going to be massive, because I think he helps Callum McGregor in a big way to be experienced around the dressing room, be a focal point for people to go to, maybe even bend an ear if they've got any issues or whatever. So for me, I think that needs to be a priority, and that's going to be probably Celtic's biggest, or one of the biggest signings over the summer, mate. And I think that you need to get that spot on. I know you've said earlier on there that we're linked with Tom, Dick and Harry for everywhere now in terms of goalkeepers, but it's one we need to get right, mate.
No, 100%. I mean, you see what happens when you don't get it right. Like, I feel bad keep hitting back onto the COVID year and stuff, right? But you see what happens when it doesn't go right. We went for Fraser Forster to Vasilis Barkas, and it took us.
Can I ask you, Ryan, just before you go into that, right? Do you think this is my thoughts, right? Because do you think Barkas came to us just at the wrong time? Because of COVID and everything else? God, because I don't doubt his goalkeeping ability at all when you see what he's doing elsewhere.
If anybody's familiar with my channel, they'll know that I was the biggest Barkas backer there was. I tried my hardest. I was shouting for Celtic to sign him first of all, and then I had to double down when he came in, and we've seen that he was performing quite poorly. But now it's funny because he's over in Utrecht and he's actually been doing quite well in his couple of years there. I think it was a really difficult time for him, I must admit. And I'll never like gone too fitted in on him, because as I said, I supported him, and I really was hoping that he would maybe get another chance at Celtic at some point, but we cut off losses and rightly so. I think it was hard for the fans to really come round to Barkas after the showing that we had through that season. But no, I agree. I think he came in at a really poor time. I don't think it entirely excuses some of the stuff we've seen. I mean, especially when I know it was a friendly, right? But remember the West Ham game? And he was,
his positioning was terrible.
I think you look at moments like that and you're like, right. I think you can understand, but I do definitely have sympathy for him at the situation that he was left to coming into Celtic. But
big Doris, I know.
Aye, exactly.
Doris,
aye.
Oh no.
But there's so many goalkeepers out there, right? And we're getting linked with so many of them as well. But they need to get it right.
I think the big Turkish boys down the lines, it no?
Apparently all of them are doing the line if you ask certain journalists.
I know.
Right.
I'm pretty sure I heard the other day that the big Turkish lad has been spoken to more than once now with the manager, and I think he's kind of told people over in at Trabzonspor that he's headed for Glasgow in the summer.
I think he's most people's first pick. I think that's who people would like to see the most. If you go online and ask, I think he's the one that would get the most votes. So listen, I'd be happy with it. But
and he's a loony, like Boric.
Aye, exactly, which is good for a goalkeeper sometimes, as long as he's not getting sent off every week.
No, I know.
But I just want somebody to come in that can fill Joe Hart's boots in a couple of ways. I don't think it's just a case of being able to be a good keeper. I think just having that leadership quality around you as well, and having that way you can that saying, what is it? You know, the people say that every team starts with a good goalkeeper. You know, somebody that can operate for the back, can keep a good look at the back line. I think that's really important. There was something I was going to say there in terms of goalkeepers as well. Aye, that was it. I just don't want us to sign somebody that means in 6 months into the season we need to play Scott Bain. That's the disaster that we need to. And that's no. Listen, I'm not meaning to throw shade onto Scott Bain. He's living his best life, and see when he comes in, he does as well enough a job as he can. But the general situation and scenario of having to revert back to Scott Bain being first team keeper, should they be on our radars anytime soon? So we need to recruit well.
Comes back, didn't he?
Toby Oluyemi.
He's supposed to be doing well. Surely he comes back and displaces Scott Bain as kind of second choice or whatever.
Maybe he does.
I actually think we need two goalkeepers. I really do.
I said that as well. I said that on my channel a couple of weeks ago. I think that you can't even count out the equation that two goalkeepers are looked at, because I mean, you're talking about Sigrist leaving. He's going to leave, so you probably do need two. It just I wouldn't mind if we go and sign somebody on the cheap for a backup, and then obviously invest on a first team keeper. But I think there is a conversation for leading two there in the summer, definitely.
No, 100%, Alan. I would agree with that, because like Brian says, he took the actual words out of my mouth. I think big Benji Sigrist is going to move on. We understand his partner's Australian, and he's looked at. I think Sydney FC are looking at him, and so are the team that we got Marco Tilio from as well. Melbourne. So. Yeah, I think there's definitely, if he goes and Joe Hart's retiring, then in my opinion you need to replace both of them.
But Sigrist is a kind of strange one. When he came in, he was performing fantastically well in the Scottish Premier League, very well. I was kind of excited about Sigrist coming in. I thought he'd be do a very good job. He was an incredible shot stopper when he was with the United. So it's definitely no worked out for Sigrist for whatever reason that may be. But unless kind of some of the boy that's at loan, Toby, I'm not even going to try and pronounce his name.
Toby Oluyemi.
Aye, that's the one. But unless he comes back and he's going to kind of make himself a fixture within, like, even on the bench or third choice, etc., then it is definitely feasible that we're looking at a couple of goalkeepers, because you would expect at least Sigrist to leave. Joe Hart leaving. Scott Bain's there with the fixtures now. He's I don't think he'll ever leave. He's just that kind of backup.
I think he's there for life, isn't he?
So I think he'll be getting Danny McGrain's status soon. He'll be still be there. He'll be getting tours when he's 70.
I actually heard that Scott Bain's taking over for Stevie Woods, by the way, because Stevie Woods apparently chucking it the next year or two, and I've heard Scott Bain's getting that role. So I don't know how true that is.
That's something that would never surprise me. You know what I mean? Like.
By the way, he might be a great coach.
It could be. It could be. I'm not jumping to that conclusion, but even just on the you know, you look at what we've done with Darren Day the other day. I feel like it's just, you know, that's the way we work, innit? You know, if you're a good pal of the club, you get a job. It seems that's the way it works.
Yeah, I think the Darren Day ones. I don't know if it's just me again. I think that makes sense. Because if you go and bring a guy in from outside and it doesn't work out well, what happens then when you're halfway down a plan? Do you know what I mean?
There's definitely, I think, an element of it that makes sense to me. Like parts of it, I don't know if there should be a role specifically created for him. That's where I'm like, right, I feel if he's got to be part of that process, the kind of development and the growth and the pathways or whatever label they want to give it, I'm like, surely they can quietly just give him a specific job that doesn't need announced to the Celtic fans, because I think that's where you wind folk up. I think you wind folk up in the part where you're like, right, this is a big new job that's going to be so important, but we're giving it to somebody like Dan Day rather. And I think that's where people expect it to be like Fredrik Sorensen for Norway, that just a random name, obviously. Like they want somebody that sounds impressive, and they want somebody that's like had that role elsewhere. You know what I mean?
Am I right in saying that Dan's actually no longer a Celtic coach now? He's got this new role, and he's now a go-between between the youths and the first team, the pathway director or whatever it's called.
Might well be, but Darlody might be great at this job, right? But I think the problem being is that this season, because of things that have been happening in the recruitment team, we've seen the likes, say, LinkedIn profiles getting put up. Gordon Strachan's boy, that what was he, a car salesman manager or something?
He worked in a golf shop.
A golf shop. That was the one. And then you're seeing kind of Peter Lawwell's boy getting the bill at an all, going, he's away mowing some lawn mowing some garden somewhere, isn't he? So you're looking at the kind of two, and then that's where you're kind of thinking to yourself, read the room, Celtic, a bit, just do that in the quiet, I think, because you're seeing how kind of badly that's been taken by the fans. But again, that's not, we really us know how good Darlow D will be at this job.
No, I know.
So it's always criticised Darlow D the slightest.
100%. It's always time dependent as well, isn't it? Because I think that's the kind of announcement. See if they made that announcement, say you've won a treble, and they make it like, you know, a few days after, and people are just still happy about winning a treble, and the seasons went really well. People don't blink an eye, but see when you start adding in the fact that
Neil Lennon get appointed the showers,
I think we all had something to say about that one, right enough. But you know, I think there's always time dependent, because sometimes you don't even blink an eye at these things, and then sometimes you're right to just fucking, you know, shout and swear about it. You know what I mean?
Aye. No, I kind of get that. I can echo some of that, definitely. But what other positions, Ryan, would you say yourself you're looking for the club to be looking at? And I'm not meaning, I mean on the pitch, before you get any wild ideas, because I know you're in Tenerife with him. I don't want any reminiscing happening here.
Listen, that's Alan's job. That's not mine. Take it away. No, see, don't sound very boring about it, but I think every position, number one, should be looked at. I don't think anybody's position's safe. I think that there's a conversation to look at every area, but if you were to like need to look down into certain ones, and obviously I think you're looking at the defence needing a good reinvestment in players, a left back, another centre half, and then when you go up the park, I think if O'Reilly leaves, which he most likely will, you know, you're needing somebody to come in and fill his role, another centre midfielder. I would maybe, it depends what happens with Ida. Don't know if he'll stay permanently, whatever. We need another striker, and I think you need two wingers as well. I think you need somebody on the left and the right hand side. It's a really weird one that I think this year has really shown up, that despite having some really good players in that team, and I'm not saying that suddenly all 11 of our nail-on starters are for the bin, but this year I think has shown that, especially when a couple of injuries come in, that we're thin, we're light, all over, everywhere in that team we're light, and we need to buckle down and reinvest now. But they're the areas that come to mind straight away. Left back, centre mid, wingers and striker, which feels like I've just named after the whole team, but aye.
No, listen, I get that, because everybody's got different thoughts, and you know what way they want to see the team being shaped up and stuff like that. So that's how I just thought I would throw that at you. I think, personally, we had this chat last night, actually. Myself, Ryan and Barry Bannon, when we were on last night, we had this chat, and, you know, we think that now, Alan, I don't know if you've seen it last night, mate, I don't know if you managed to catch us, but we actually think, and we came to we agreed, because I've seen it in Rodgers. We think he wants to play Adam Ida before he plays Kyogo, but he can't, because I think there'll be a backlash if just for talking to Adam Ida comes in and has a bad game. There'll be a backlash, but because of the makeup of the player,
You know, you look back at Rodgers' teams. It's the same at Leicester. He couldn't drop Vardy because he was a legend down there. But then he brought in Patson Daka, who's similar to Eder. He's big, he's strong, he's powerful, he's got pace. He can hold the ball in, he can turn on a half turn, link play to the midfield, play as a 1, play as a 2. You can even put him wide if he needed to as well in terms of shortage in your team. He does the same, get the same makeup. Dembele was the same. You know, he had Origi at Liverpool, exact same type of player. So he likes guys like that, you know. And we think that, you know, if it wasn't for Kyogo scoring the odd goal still here and there, we kind of think it would be Kyogo would be on the bench. Don't know if you flickered there, mate. I don't know if am I getting you excited. he just flickered on and off there. But we kind of think in terms of Ida himself, we think that you know, he wants to play Ida over Kyogo. Not because he thinks Kyogo's a bad player, but just that actual position. And Ryan's right. I think I'm going to be gutted if we can't get Big Ida up here permanently, or at least not another lengthy loan deal, because he's been superb to the team. But I give your thoughts on that, Alan, and then obviously your thoughts on the other positions that you would like to see strengthened.
Aye. I could agree with you that Brendan probably prefers to play that type of striker. But when it comes to kind of quality levels between Kyogo and Adamida, I think it's night and day. I think Kyogo's far better standard, and I think that's what will most likely continue to get him that starting place before Adamida. It's no kind of down in Adamida. He's done well for me since he's come up on loan. When you're looking at the summer, we've had this discussion before. It all depends on the kind of the transfer fee that Norwich are looking for. Because the figures that are kind of about, I can't see Celtic spending that amount of money, especially when we base Kyogo as one main striker. We paid kind of 4.5 million for Kyogo. So if you're looking kind of 6-7 million that are quoted for Adamida, I can't see that happening. If it was maybe 2, 3, 4 million tops, I'd be saying, yeah, definitely, I can see that happening. But there's only kind of a few people that can make that decision happen, and that's the kind of the manager, the Celtic board, and the recruitment team. So we can only kind of sit back and see how that pans out. But for me, Kyogo's in quality terms is on a different level for Adamida, and should always be the first starter when it comes to the striker of the team. When you're looking at the players that we need to bring in, it's going to be a few, I think, because I think we need to kind of scratch the last summer's transfer windows. I think there's going to be a lot of players there that are moving out the door again, whether that be loan moves or permanent moves. You're already seeing that kind of come to fruition. So I'd be looking at, obviously, the goalkeeper. It's going to be 1 or 2 goalkeepers. I think we're going to need at least another centre half, I think, because I've no idea how much faith or trust that Brendan Rodgers has got in Lewandowski or Lagerbielke. More about Lagerbielke. You can see he's way out the picture for whatever reason that may be.
Yeah.
So you're going to need 1 or 2 centre halves, you'd say, because you'd anticipate that there's going to be the same amount leaving. You're looking at we definitely need a left back. I think that's a given, because you see the problems that we're in when we Taylor out for a week or two because Bernabe Bernabe's away loan. He's on the bench here and all. He's not getting the game with that. I read that yesterday that he was getting the game with the club that he's at loan at just now. I think the centre mid position that's obviously dictated by if Matt O'Reilly does leave, which we probably anticipate he may well do. But is Paulo Bernardo a replacement for him? That's the next question. Are Celtic willing to pay the money for Bernardo? Which I'd probably side on yes. I would think so. I think he's showing enough kind of potential that he could be that next player. There's never anything that's certain in football, but it looks as if he's got that kind of potential to make that step up. And then the wing position, that's where we've probably faltered recently. You're looking at, apart from Cool, with Maida out injured, I think we discussed this on the weekend. I'd probably say that Forrest is my best option there. Between the three, between Palmer, Yang and Forrest. Personally, I'd be picking Forrest there. And I don't know how feasible it is for him to last 90 minutes, but James Forrest is a Celtic legend, and I will never kind of say it bad about him, but it's getting to that kind of time in a winger's career that he's starting to slow down a bit, and you can't rely on him to kind of start living the game. So you're looking at, there's probably, you're going to need another two wingers, you'd say, because I don't think it's worked out for the other ones. And the striking position, you're looking at if Adam Ida is going to stay or not. I think that's the big factor, because you would definitely think that O's going to move out, whether that be on loan or permanently, because he's fairly wild in this. He's not been seen. He's not been seen by man or beast for a while. So I think will be quite a few signings that are coming in, but also I think there will be probably more outgoings in the summer. That's what's, you need to kind of balance the books and balance up the players as well. So it's imperative that we get this transfer window right, especially with this new Champions League competition coming up. So it'd be very exciting if we could get this transfer window right and make some sort of impact in that, whether that be kind of just getting more points than we did this year.
Yeah, Ryan, I'll bring you in a couple of things here. We've got a wee question for Barry McCandless. Barry's actually a contributor to the podcast. He said on YouTube, do we think Brendan Rodgers will seek out an out-and-out number 10? And Barry thinks ideally he would like to have someone in that role for next season in the team. We spoke on here about Lewis Palmer maybe fitting that bill, because Lewis lacks in terms of having direct pace to be that direct and go by someone down the outside or even inside. But in terms of that, mate, what's your thoughts with that in the number 10? And then obviously what we were saying as well, because there's a couple of murmurs, I don't know where they've came from. I was at the game on Saturday myself. There was a couple of guys running about me saying that they've heard that this could be wee Kyogo's last season with us. So I think if that happens, then, you're looking at really having to invest in the team, because, like I says, lads, if we were to lose Kyogo, and listen, I know we've lost big players in the past. Larson left, we managed after him. Dembele left, we replaced him with Edward. Edward left, we've had Gary Hooper. We've had guys in that's been the main focal point of the team and been the hero. So that's always the way at Celtic. So I know there'll be someone else after Kyogo, when Kyogo goes, or whenever time that time comes, should I say. But Ryan, in terms of Adam Ida, I just think, mate, it's a no-brainer for me, because you see the guy's presence. He gives the team a big lift when he comes on the park. The fans and everything are all cheering on Saturday when he's coming on, and right away he rolls at the Aberdeen defender and puts Celtic on the front foot. So for me, that signing itself is a no-brainer. But in terms of Barry's question there, mate, what do you think about the number 10 role?
I think that it's something that, especially if Matt O'Reilly leaves the club, it's something Celtic will definitely have to look at, is bringing in a player who could do that. Now, I know Matt O'Reilly doesn't strictly play as a number 10 at this moment in time. He kind of links up in the middle of the park with Hatate, and that way they kind of share roles of doing the attacking work. But I think that it's something that Celtic and Brendan Rodgers might look at to try and maybe alter the team up next year. It really, not a number 10 is weird for Celtic, because I feel like we've not played with a traditional number 10 for a while. I think even if you go back to Ange Postecoglou, it was something we never really done. We had like Hatate playing with whoever, O'Reilly, Maisley. Or you had Rogic coming in as well in the first season. They always played in as that kind of double pivot attacking midfield and set up, and a number 10 hasn't been. Maybe under Lennon we had a number 10 with like Christie for a while, but it's weird. Maybe it's something that Rodgers will look at. I remember in his first spell here, obviously we were blessed to have the likes of Rogic when he was at his best, and Stuart Armstrong, for example, who was really, really good. So maybe it is something he will look at. In terms of Palmer, he's got a lot of work to do in these last few games, I think, to save his reputation with the support. I think people are really at their wits' end with him, which is, I still like him. and I've still been somebody who's personally wanted to see the best out of him, because I think what he showed in the early days of his Celtic career when he first signed, there was definitely signs of a player being there. But I feel like the more and more people that I speak to, or I see comment sections or online, are really at their wits' end with Lewis Palmer. So he's got a lot of work to do. Maybe playing through the middle would benefit him with the as you've already mentioned, JP, the lack of pace that he has compared to other players. But I listen, I think that at number 10, if they come in the right frame of player, if they come in a player that's substantially improved Celtic, then that's something I'd look at. It just depends who is coming in to replace Matt O'Reilly, I think, and then what you do with the team after that. But never say never. I mean, will they set up? I was just about to say that, actually. If you set up with the traditional 4-2-3-1, then, you know, there's an argument for a number 10 coming in there. My only worry with playing the 4-2-3-1 is what happens with Hatate and McGregor. Because I don't know if they work together in that kind of two-player setup. I don't know. It's a really weird one. Just wait and see what the players that we get linked with are, I suppose.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think there's clear options, but, you know, Celtic, in a game, Celtic set up 3 different ways. So, and it's all kind of interlinked with one another in the way. So Celtic set up in a way that they'll start the game. When Celtic don't have the ball, they set up in a different formation. When Celtic are attacking, they go into a different formation. And then you see players starting to come across. Like, say, with Ange. Ange was more a gung-ho 3D. It was kind of 3D football we had. So you had players overlapping and underlapping and coming round, and players coming out of position, getting into other positions. You're starting to kind of see that now with Brendan as well. I don't know what Brendan's... Sometimes when we don't have the ball, our shape... There's been times this season, lads, where I think our shape's been really, really disjointed. And it seems to be mixed messages because, again, these guys are falling back into muscle memory, in my opinion. So they're going back into what they were taught under Big Ange. And you see Greg Taylor, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, I saw Greg Taylor over on the right-hand side of the pitch, and I'm like, what are you doing here? Get her there. And where I sat at Celtic Park, you know, he was kind of over at my side, and I'm like, what are you doing here? Get back here there. We're short over there. But I think I agree with Barry there. I think we need some sort of structural play at times as well, especially in Europe away from home. That's where I think we need to be more. We need to be more tactical aware, because when you go away from home, Ryan Clifford, who's on here regularly, as we all know, he bangs the drum about going away from home against these teams like PSG, Barcelona. You can't get away from home and play 2 and 3 up front and play with like 2 wingers against these teams. Unless you have the direct manpower to do it, you just can't do it. And Brendan went to the new camp, mate, and tried to play with 2 wingers. He went up against PSG and played with like more or less 3 up front with Dembele as a focal point through the middle. Aye, we scored early, but we just woke up an angry bear and get destroyed. They beat us 7-1. So that needs to, for me, that needs to change. You know, our approach away from home in Europe needs to change. But I don't want to down them too much because they've just gave us our first win in the Champions League for, what was it, 10 years?
God.
So I don't, and people going like that, but that was a damp squib, JP. No, Celtic don't play damp squibs. So Celtic, Feyenoord came and tried to beat us. Jimenez had numerous of chances, great saves with Joe Hart. He actually scored one of the goals as well. So I don't buy into this. That was a damp squib at all. You know, They came, they tried to win the game. They were trying to qualify as well. So they tried to beat us, and they couldn't because we were better. And their performances in Europe have been coming. We saw him under Ange. You know, we played Real Madrid half a park in spells of the game. We were good for about 63 minutes of that game. And then it looked like our fitness levels just fell off the cliff because we just couldn't keep it going. We couldn't maintain. And that, lads, I keep banging the drum, Ryan. I'll come to you with this one. That's the quality level. It's so hard to get to that level, mate, and keep it maintained up against these guys who we would call world beaters.
Oh, it's nuts. It's worlds apart. I mean, we're a fit team. Like, I know we've had our bad luck with injuries and stuff this season,
Yeah.
but especially back then under Ange, we're a really fit team. But then you notice the difference when you go up against, I mean, Real Madrid are the best team in the world, and these teams that we're playing are the best teams in the world. So that's when you start to notice the differences. I guess there's only so much you can do as a team to try and obviously bridge that gap. I mean, you can work as hard as you want, but sometimes it's just a step too far. But in terms of, you know, playing in Europe and that, it's so weird. Because obviously we had a manager like Ange who did not sacrifice any of his style, any of his kind of traditions in football. He wanted to play like that wherever he was, whether it was a Bernabeu or whether it was, you know, Celtic Park, wherever. He would want to play a very specific way, and I think Celtic fans really enjoyed that sort of mantra surrounding the way that you approach a game. But I suppose I've always said it, there is only certain times that it can work, and I think sometimes you have to be realistic, and I don't know how you set up for these games without getting a scudding or whatever, but we've seen signs this year. The good thing is I think there has been signs over the last 3 years under Ange, under Rodgers, and enough to suggest that if we do the right recruitment and we do the right things off the park, that we can maybe start getting results more consistently in Europe.
Yeah, no, 100%. Alan, would you agree with that?
Definitely. It's always going to be a difficult task. You're coming up against some of these teams that are kind of levels and levels above the kind of finance that we're able to pay as well. So it's going to be a tricky task. I'll always try and deal with it, no matter if we try and defend or kind of go forward, like Brendan has done in the past. So you're going to need, with these kind of games as well, you need a wee bit of luck to swing your way as well. You need to prepare well, make sure you're relatively well set up, hard to beat, hard to break down, and hope for the best at the end of the day as well with some of these teams that you're coming up against, because some of the teams that we see are absolutely frightening. Some of the football we've seen, especially in the last couple of years, it's been frightening. So you can only do what we can do with the kind of the finance available to us and the players available to us. So that is a hard act to get any kind of relative success in that top table. That's the crux of it. That's the facts there.
Yeah, of course, and obviously we know how lucrative it is to be in that sort of goldfish bowl. You know, to play in the Champions League and what it can do for the club. But obviously to summarise the last wee bit of today, Ryan, what's your overriding thoughts so far? Are you feeling this season? I know you said earlier you're happy with the challenge and you've looked forward to it, and so far it's been going good. And Celtic this season's about getting over the line, in my opinion, mate. It's about rolling my sleeves up and having to battle. But I think this season we've learnt a lot about this Celtic team. You know, there's a lot of young lads came here. They've maybe never won a trophy, never won a medal, but they've now been flung into a cauldron where they know that you know, we're not just here to wear a green and white jersey and just take part. We need to be here to take over, because we're the next generation to carry this team forward. Should we be good enough to stay within the first 11 or the peripheral of the kind of first team? So I think we've learnt a lot about the character of them, and again that showed again on Saturday. Forget again to take us to another cup final, mate. So what's your thoughts on just to summarise the season so far, and what's your thinking for us going forward?
Apologies, Sunday's decided to start hoovering on the stern. I don't know.
No, it's all right, mate. Don't worry about that. There's been worse noises than that on here before. Don't worry.
Probably failing us soon.
Sorry,
Alan. No, listen. I think it's a good way to sum it up. Is part of what you said. There's a good part of bringing into this season to its full context. I think this year has been about discovering who we are as an identity under Brendan Rodgers and trying to fix that transition. I think people forget sometimes how hard it is to fully transition for something as intense as what Ange Postecoglou was doing. He was building something at Celtic that was really, that was his thing, and it was so far apart from anything we've ever done before. That was something incredibly unique. And then for suddenly the manager to up, and this isn't me taking a dig at Ange, by the way, but for him to suddenly up sticks and leave, and just suddenly that was the project done, to then change and do a full pivot to something different, it's no easy, it's no quick, it's no fast. And I think people forget that sometimes. So it's been about discovering a personality again under a different manager. It's been discovering a style. It's been about adapting and changing. Yeah. And even though it's maybe took Celtic a wee bit of time to find their footing and doing that, they've definitely managed to show in recent weeks, I think, that the signs are encouraging for us to kick on under Brendan Rodgers next year. Go back to December, January time, I was never one of them, but there was plenty of people who wanted Rodgers out the door back in December, January time.
Probably still do, Ryan.
Probably still do. I probably still do. But I think in recent weeks there's been enough there to suggest that Brendan Rodgers is the right guy for the job and has got the right ideas to take us forward. He's won trebles for a reason. He's got us into another cup final for a reason. We're top of the league for a reason. I think there's a lot to be optimistic about should he be back properly in the summer. I think there's a lot to be optimistic about should he get the league title won this year. And considering some of the positions that we were at through this season, I think that winning the league and potentially winning a double would be a remarkable season and a remarkable turnaround for where we were, because so many people were doom and gloom, including myself. I was a bit doom and gloom with where we could have ended this season. So, listen, I think the season's been a challenge. I think it's been tough. But I'm all up for the final few games. I think it's a very defining few games for some of the players at Celtic, for some of the younger guys at Celtic who are maybe still fighting for a career at the club. But I'm very excited for it nonetheless, I must say.
Yeah, you share a lot of similarities to myself, mate, because Celtic always give us some sort of excitement regardless of what it is they're doing. And it's the same, obviously you'll know yourself with doing the podcast and stuff, mate. There's never a dull moment with Celtic, and there's never nothing you can talk about. So that Celtic, it's a club that never leave you quiet. So your podcast's always going to have that interest because there's always something going on that you can chat about. You can, when you've got guys like Alan on, you can just make it up and just start talking about it. You know what I mean? And just it becomes a topic, and before you know it, hits a daily record. And then, but he's been on worse than that, right enough. So, but, there you go. You know, it could be a lot worse, definitely. But Alan, obviously yourself, just to summarise, mate, your thoughts on the season, and then obviously, what's your thinking like going forward in the last 5 games in the cup final?
It's been a bit of a roller coaster. As Ryan says there, you've got to echo that. You've expecting that kind of tidal change in how we were playing, how we're setting up. It's going to have an impact, and it's not going to be learnt overnight. We've loaded the best the transfer windows, so we need to get this league won with what we've got. We'd love to see a cup double as well, and then we get into the summer and revisit how we deal with kind of recruitment, etc. So it's been a bit of a roller coaster. It's been ups and downs, but thankfully just now it's looking more in a kind of upward trajectory. Trajectory.
All right, we'll get it on the end. Stick your teeth in and we'll get there.
Trajectory. That's what's positive about just now. So it looks as if we're in a strong position to go on and win the league and the cup double. So it hasn't been the most kind of quiet seasons with regards to the noise coming for every angle, really. But thankfully that's where we are at present, and it looks as if it's going to be a positive end to the season. And that's always good when you're coming to the business end of the season, that you've got the potential of picking up trophies.
Yeah, I think, see when you think at the end of the season and what we've got to look forward to, lads, and again, this is something that we've been spoiled with, because the norm for us is a cup final at the end of the season. That's became the norm for Celtic, you know.
Yep.
A lot of clubs going to the cup try to get to Hampden to experience that feeling of being at Hampden for a semi-final, you know, and our kind of thought process and levels are totally different than that. The norm for us is to be in the cup final. And the Scottish Cup final was was always a great day. It was always a brilliant day. I mean, back in the day, you had Glenn Michael's cavalcade and all that on the telly, and there was a massive build-up to, you know, there was a massive build-up to Scottish Cup final. Now, you probably got a half an hour programme and then they're into the game.
Aye.
And it's like, come on, man. You've got to give a bit more of a build-up than that. And that's something, again, we could go on and on about that as well, the TV deal we've got here and all the other things that need revamped. But I think you summarise it brilliant, lads. It's been a roller coaster season overall, but again for me, it's been exciting. You know, I'm okay with it. I'm all right with having to battle. I'm all right with having to have a fight, and as long as it's always all right when you come out on top at the end of it.
As long as you win.
As long as you win, you're all right. But listen, I've been there, Ryan. I know what the feeling is like not to win, mate, and that's okay. Because for a long time, that was the norm for me as a young boy growing up, being a Celtic fan. We were always the ones that lost and came up short. And we nearly beat Rangers. We got a one each draw, and we were celebrating, going, "Yes, we drew with them today." And back in the day, I was, that's what it was like. But now they're doing lap of honours for just getting a draw with us at the Rain Stadium. None of your fans are there, and they think they've done something. Like remarkable. But like I've always said, Ryan, I don't know how you feel just on this quickly before you go, mate. When we beat or get a draw against teams like Barcelona and Real Madrid, we probably feel elated as well. And that to me is what like their feeling was the other weekend.
That's it's always been funny to compare, like, because every time we do like a lap of honour in the park, there's always Rangers fans taking digs. Oh, look at them doing a lap of honour. I know what to get a game against, because we do it every week. We do it, every single game. They go round, they'll clap off the fans. I don't think there's really a problem with that, but it's always good to poke a wee bit of fun at Rangers and that. It's always fun.
Yeah,
and if we can compare ourselves to Real Madrid, let's take the opportunity to compare us with Real Madrid.
Yeah, well, that's an easy comparison, because we celebrate when we get results against big teams, and they get a result against a big team just there. So that's probably the best way of summarising. I want to say, just before we finish up, I want to say a massive thanks to everybody that's joined us today in the comments. I'm sorry if I can't get everybody's comment up. Obviously, we're chatting, and that's just not possible to go through everybody's single comments. But cheers for Barry as well for his couple of questions and his points. Cheers to Ryan for coming on and
taking time with
us as well, mate.
Thanks, Alan, for asking me to come on.
Thank you.
Alan. Thank you.
Cheers, Alan. Cheers for getting Ryan back on. Somebody that actually is just equally as positive about things as myself.
I try.
They'll talk about the TV coverage of the Scottish Cup. That'll be good. We'll watch Ricky Foster and Stephen Thompson playing Buckaroo before it or something.
And Mr. Sheeran for Still Game, I call Shelley Kerr.
Aye, so the summary coverage we see the it's no.
Ryan's taking that for his own channel now. He's off it.
I'll not get that image out my head now that you said it, but I'll generally get it.
It's a point for another day, but in it, because the amount of coverage, we're not selling the game enough. When you look at the FA Cup, and you look at kind of Super Bowls or worldwide kind of occasions and cup finals and that, we're kind of putting those on for 15 minutes before, and that's it. Before, so it's a conversation for another day. But just to reiterate, my thanks for Ryan coming on and blessing us with his presence, and it's been a great chat, and JP's been all right, I know.
We hope to get you back on, Ryan.
No, absolutely,
mate, when we're all 100%. Smiling, hopefully.
Hope so. God knows how it could go. You never know, I suppose. But if we get a few smiles in the face come the end of the season, then I'll happily jump back on.
Brilliant. So it means if we don't win the league, you're not coming back on, is that what you mean?
If we don't win the league, I'm not showing my face anywhere for the next few years. Don't worry, it's not just you.
There you go, folks. Everybody that watches Ryan's channels are on for a sad end if we don't win the league. But listen, take care. I hope everybody's well, and hail, guys. I'll see you later.
All right. Hail.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Cheers.